Hi, Missy K, the Book Fix here. Today my review is of A Little Folly by Jude Morgan. This book is basically a Regency romantic comedy of manners. What do I mean by that? Well, it's set in the Regency period in England, so Jane Austen's time, and it's also very similar to Austen's books in that it's about a romance in one sense, and in another sense it's about basically society and the pressures that are on individual people in that society about how people have to act. And I'm going to be honest, I love this kind of story. I love Austen, and I love Georgette Heyer, who is kind of the queen of the Regency romance, who wasn't actually writing in that time period, because Austen, obviously, she was just writing about her own times, so it wasn't a historical novel to her, it was just a novel. And so Georgette Heyer is kind of the queen of that kind of writing as a historical time period about Regency romances. And obviously there are lots of other people today that are writing Regency romances, but they are writing romances, whereas Heyer and Jude Morgan, they are writing more comedy of manners. It's a story about how people live and how they interact and how society views them. And A Little Folly is about a brother and a sister. They were oppressed, I guess oppressed is a good word, by their father for years, ever since their mother died, which was when they were quite young. And he was very controlling. He wanted to shelter them in a lot of ways, and he didn't want them to have influences other than him or people that he approved of. So it begins when their father dies, and they're both over 21, or they're both, I guess the sister is 21. So they are considered adults in that time period. So they realize that suddenly they have freedom. They can do what they want to a certain extent, especially because their father did leave them a decent fortune. Valentine, the brother, starts up a flirtation with a woman who is actually still married, and the sister, Louisa, is basically just coming out of her shell. She's not doing anything terribly scandalous, but she's just learning about the world in a way that she wasn't able to experience before. And I'm not going to spoil too much of what else happens, but it's just a very sweet and, yes, romantic, although not a romance in the modern sense of the term applied to books. And it's a good story. I liked it quite a bit. There was a point where I was wondering if she had cribbed the plot almost entirely from Pride and Prejudice, but it doesn't quite go that way. So I was satisfied with the ending, and it was a fun journey. I recommend it if you like that kind of thing at all. If you've ever liked a Jane Austen or a Georgette Heyer, then you'll probably like this one.